Hello everyone, here Hania. I have been carrying this idea for a longer time. Each time someone sends me a question or it's formulated either during a circle or a therapy session or any other exchange, I feel like oftentimes these questions belong not to one of us but belong to many of us in the same time. The questions keeps coming back. That's why I decided to start replying in a way that I can share the answers with bigger group, trusting that it can be interesting also for others. With this notion that this is just one perspective, that this is just my perspective, for sure inspired by many teachers I had on the way. And I hope to spark a discussion or spark your own inner reflection, knowing that my perspective is maybe element of a bigger universe, just one of the stars or one of the planets. It's not the whole universe. This is the first question I would like to focus on. That's a question that I have been hearing very often. When activation arises, shall I focus on down regulating? Or shall I let it be, feel it all, release it all? Even if that means getting a little bit overwhelmed or getting out of my window of tolerance. Um, and I understand how confusing it can be. When I look at my kind of history of both studying psychology, psychotherapy, but also my own journey, I have been hearing a lot of contradictory, theoretically contradictory suggestions. Some say you need to feel it all, you need to let it out, you need to shake it off, you need to release it. Some people say, some scientists, some scholars, some practitioners say, no, you always should stay in the window of your tolerance because getting too high can create a shutdown, the system overload, can create the re-traumatization. Getting out of the window of tolerance can remind your system how trauma feels like, and it can relieve the traumatic experience. So, how to make sense out of it? I would like to present how I am making sense out of it. Maybe it will be helpful to some of you. And I would follow immediately with two other questions. Who is speaking and with what intention? Very often, maybe here a little detour, very often when people, for example, come to therapy, they arrive in a way delegated by part of them that wants a quick fix, that part of them that feels probably exhausted by the symptom, part of them that would like a quick change. And sometimes the language or a tone or energy, like this energetic activation, reminds me a little bit times when I was at school and there was a misbehaving child, and very helpless teacher would take this child to a principal saying like, this kid, we are done with them, he disturbs our, I don't know, mathematics class, other kids can't learn because this kid takes all the space, and I can't continue with my like educational program or whatever program. And like kind of dropping or rather dumping this kid at the principal's office. I definitely had similar experience where when working with families, when parents would come with a child saying like, do something with them, like, that's the kid, that's my problem, fix it. And asking ourselves this question, where I am coming from when I am trying to fix how I am feeling, when I am trying to figure out what to do with the activation that's arising within me. Am I like this impatient, helpless parent that wants a quick fix? Or Am I coming from a place of love and compassion? Am I coming from a place of true curiosity? Very often, recognizing that an urge to downregulate or an urge to not feel, or an urge to actually feel it all very quickly, to have it out of the system and be done with it. If it is coming from a part of us that it's impatient, that it's hopeless, that usually means that we first need to work with this part, with helplessness, hopelessness, with impatience, before we can even go to the activation, before we can go to the original point of disturbance or point of confusion. We first need to work with the parts of us that would like a quick fix. It's worth mentioning here that we have different types of nervous system activation. Sometimes we are in a real danger. There is a car approaching fast, maybe there is, I don't know, fire, or maybe there is not enough nutrition in our body, and our system starts informing us something is wrong. You need to run to the kitchen, or you need to run out of the street. And our body, our wholeness, have capacity to regulate back to calmness, regulate back to groundedness when the danger is gone. But of course, many times in our life, the danger was not a moment. It wasn't the hunger or it wasn't the car that we could quickly respond to. Very often, danger was something that was more like our background reality, something that was kind of always there, something that we learned to be always alert to. Either danger in the form of anger, danger in the form of rejection, danger in the form of upsetting someone. As especially as children, our survival truly dependent on relationships with our caretakers. And very often, this activation that couldn't be resolved, we couldn't come back to our core, to our center, because the danger wasn't the moment, it was a state. Very often, this activation stays in our system. We can imagine that there is part of us that literally carries the energy, carries the activation, but carries it as like a very heavy burden, a lot of pain, a lot of loneliness, a lot of exhaustion as well, because it's this constant alertness, this confusion, this pain. And there are also parts of us that got kind of lost in time in a way. They don't know that we have changed, that time changed, that our environments changed. So, just in case, they react with this very strong activation each time there is a situation that, even in the slightest way, reminds us the original source of perceived danger. Um, Probably the very typical example are social contexts, that there is someone looking in a certain way, or maybe there is a group setting, or maybe there is being in front of the group, like on a stage in a way. And immediately there is an activation because somewhere in the past, certain types of looks, certain types of people, certain types of situations have been not safe for us for many different reasons. We don't even go there. So there is this somatic memory on the nervous system level, or there is this learned behavior of a part of us that it's automatic, it's quick, we very often can't even notice when it's happening. So this activation can be can become a problem for us on its own. And I use the word problem, knowing that this is how it is perceived by other parts of us. Because maybe we want to pursue certain types of careers or certain types of relationships, and this activation that blocks our capacity to think clear, to express ourselves, this activation becomes like a burden on its own, even though the activation itself is a part of us trying to help us, having the best intention to protect us from danger. And here we are in this complicated situation because very often there are parts of us that are just done with this activation. They are done with this response from the nervous system. They want to fix it quickly. However, judgment, need to fix, urgency, these are not the qualities that can allow us to be with this activation, to understand this part, to help this part get out of the past and come back to the present moment, and is not allowing us to appreciate this part. And this is the totally mind-blowing element, that for the healing we need compassion, not only for ourselves in this present moment, we need it too, but we need also compassion for the symptom itself. So we need a compassion for activation, we need a compassion for something that kind of paralyzes. We need to see it our as a part of us that really wants to help. So once we've got this part of us that is very activated, very, very full of energy, either through fear, through anger, through anxiety, through like just general activation, heartbeat, tension in the throat, or chaotically moving hands, or maybe the activation was so high that the part is already in the freeze response and it's dissociated, it's confused, it's like kind of out of the present moment or out of the body even. There is an impulse to do something with it. And again, I would come back in this moment to the question from the beginning. Where is the impulse coming from? Is it an impulse coming from place of love? I feel for this part. I want to help it. I want to help it feel safe. I want to help it feel sense of belonging. And then we can use our nervous system regulation skills and tools. If we can't go into a deeper healing process in the given moment, we can use nervous system regulation skills as a tool to help this part. We can use breath, we can use dance, we can use shaking, we can use touch, we can use whatever we are using, tapping, qigong, whatever. We can help, we can use it. However, sometimes our impulse to regulate the nervous system is not coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of annoyance. It's coming from a place of shame, very often shame, coming from a place of guilt, like, oh my God, I don't know, 37 years old and I still can't get over it, or I am 25 and it's with me since I was 3 and I am annoyed, I am ashamed. People see me like that. People see me shaking. People see me in pain. I don't want it. And when we ask ourselves where an impulse to regulate the nervous system comes from, and we recognize that it's not coming from a place of love, but it's coming from a place of annoyance, of shame, of guilt, the same tools, even on the surface, they may look the same. They may look like a breath, they may look like touch, they may look like whatever, but they have very different impact. They rather are forms of self-oppression in my own experience or in my own observance. And they can reinforce the loop of unworthiness. They can reinforce the loop of shame. They can reinforce the loop of guilt and reinforce the loop of, I can't be who I am, something is wrong with me. And maybe there would be another part kind of forming, like another part managing whom we are, this time through like high quality skills. But the underlying quality is not different than self-harm, is not different than, I don't know, alcohol or drugs. It's like, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling. I don't want to be who I am. And this is something that it may be a little confusing what I'm saying, because very often we hear about, I don't know, yoga or breath or, I don't know, whatever other methods as form of self-care. And when we are not clear about the intention and we are not clear about where the behavior is coming from, we can realize that our yoga or our breath can be actually forms of self oppression, not forms of self care, but forms of self pacifying and escape from yourself. And it's quite heavy to say. So I'm taking a breath as well. And I would like to balance it with a good news. Good news is that our system has a natural innate capacity to heal. That with all the respect for the tools and skills that we can acquire and sometimes can be very helpful, I don't know, on a train, at the workplace, it's not the same with healing. Our bodies, our systems, our psyches have capacity to heal, have capacity to discharge the accumulated energy when they are in a safe circumstances. And safe, it's not lack of danger. Safe is a place of enormous love, enormous compassion, compassion also for the symptom, is a space in which we know that when we change, we will still belong. And this is maybe another tricky one, that very often our change or even discharge of the nervous system is blocked by realization that there is not enough safety around to truly change, to become someone else, to fully unfold, because full unfolding can be extremely scary for our young parts. Are you sure that you can be your authentic self? Are you sure that you can flow and you can bloom, that you can express your anger, you can set boundaries? Are you sure that you are living within a circumstance in which healing is actually safe for you? However, it's possible, and our bodies have natural, innate capacity to do so. And example that I didn't plan to share, but now I'm feeling I would like to. Example from my own life, from more or less 2 years ago that it's coming. I had type of anxiety or type of activation that would always arise in the moments when I would like to spend money on myself. Like, not things that I need, but things that I don't need, or things that are more for pleasure or for fun. I would always need to have this like inner justification. Why do I spend money? And and would always comes with a lot of heat in my body, a lot of tension, a lot of like discomfort, a lot of guilt hitting me afterwards if I did it. So like even I worked through it, and I would be and I was able to buy things for pleasure, it doesn't mean that activation was gone. I would buy something, oh, I did it for myself, but then the heat, the tension, the pain, the guilt, like it would all still be there. There was this lack of coherence between different systems in my brain. And we know again from neuroscience that for the healing we need coherence of our nervous system. So these different pathways within us, they need to be in connection, they need to be in contact. And mine were definitely not. There was this split, inner split. I would do something, I healed it, I worked on it, but there was part of my nervous system, like parts of me that didn't know about it. So they would still react with a lot of activation. And I more or less 2 years ago, I went to Berlin, as some of you watching it maybe know, and I really didn't want to be there. I bought a ticket when it was cheap. It was very long time before. It felt like a good idea, but once I arrived, I felt my whole system was telling me go home. Like I didn't feel ready to come back to my old hometown that is Berlin. Everything was overwhelming. I felt like I just wanted to go home to countryside, to silence. And I still had 7 days left before my, cheap ticket that I bought. And each night I would not be able to sleep. I was like, my whole body was saying, go home. I was totally dysregulated, totally out of myself. And my inner knowing is that you can't spend money for no reason. And so when I checked the ticket prices to come home earlier, they were like quite expensive for what it was. And and then I remember this wave of love, like literally wave of love. And I bought this overpriced ticket to come home because this is what was good for me. And doing it out of love, and also literally taking 2 days. I'm not joking. 2 days. I did nothing else but processed what happened. I took 2 days to process that I bought overpriced ticket. And I took 2 days to understand my activation, to understand myself, why I didn't want to be there, why I wanted to go home. I took literally 2 days to show these wounded parts of me that, hey, we did it. We bought this, we spent a lot of money now to go home because what you are feeling is valid, what you are feeling is important. And after that, this activation was gone. It never came again. It's, yeah, it never came again. It just disappeared. Now I can spend money for pleasure with no problem. Um, but what is in this story, and this story has important elements, is that I took a lot of time to integrate different corners of myself to inform them about each other. I also stayed with really high activation for a longer time. I I didn't suppress it. I didn't rationalize myself into staying in Berlin because this is what adult people do when they bought tickets. I also didn't over rationalize myself when I bought the ticket that it's okay, this is what I have money, I can spend it. Like, no, I really stayed with a lot of activation for a really long time. And I went through waves of it, up and down, um, and I took time. And there was a lot of love. There was also love from other people. I got a lot of support in this moment. I didn't get judgment like, come on, you are adult, you are a therapist, and you are dysregulated because you are for 1 week out of home. What's that? No, I got a lot of compassion from others. But compassion from others would not be enough. If I didn't open these channels of compassion within myself, inside myself. And I'm sharing it as an example of our body's capacity to discharge charge accumulated over the whole life. Because as you can imagine, there is a reason why my system was reacting so strongly to spending money. There was not, that wasn't a mistake. And there were times in my life when that was truly dangerous. It was physically dangerous because I grew up at home that we really didn't have money. It was emotionally dangerous because my mother would really judge spending. It was identity dangerous because my father was someone who would spend a lot of money in a very not smart way. So each time I would, I don't know, buy ice cream, it would be like, you are like your father. So it's like also this identity confusion and anxiety around it. And I could add a lot of other stuff here. But my body and body of everyone else, the system of everyone else has capacity to heal. But it needs to happen in the setting of full acceptance, unconditional self compassion, and a lot of time. So, if I could sum it up, nervous system regulation is not the same what healing. And we need both. Sometimes we need tools, we need skills to come back to ourselves because we are not in life circumstances that allow us to go for a deeper healing process. And when we go for nervous system regulation, it's important that it's coming from a place of love, coming from a place of care, coming from a place of compassion. It's very different inner state when I say, I know you are suffering. I don't have now capacity to attend to you, but I see you, I hear you. I want to help you so you are not staying in this inner terror. it's a very different quality than like, hey, I want to go to work, or I want to go to my training, or I want to look cool among my friends, or I want to appear in a certain way at my work context. So you better shut up, or minimize your feeling, or calm down. Um, so I guess that's kind of clear that this creates very different inner environment. And it also creates very different long-term safety, inner safety. When we talk about safety, we often talk about something that comes from outside, like a safe place or a safe space is where a facilitator or a group creates a certain environment in which we can breathe and settle and feel calm. But even more important is the same process internally, that we are these inner facilitators, creating a safe space for all parts of us. Because we are this inner community that we can't escape, we can't change. We are always here within this inner space. And safety, it's one of the elements needed for healing. Healing again being something different than the nervous system regulation or generally regulation or problem solving or whatever. Healing is a complex process, and for me the main element of it is so-called memory reconciliation, something that you can definitely learn a lot these days about. So when we experience something in life, especially over longer period of time, we create this inner knowing on about ourselves, about the world, about men, about women, about relationships. And these inner knowings lead to automatic responses. And these inner knowings are carried by different parts of us. So sometimes we have inner knowings that are contradictory, but it's totally different topic. However, when we are clear that we want to heal something, that we are ready to heal something, we need three elements. And it's coming both from ancient wisdoms, it's coming from neuroscience, it's coming from therapy practice, it's coming from many different sides. We need safety, but we also need activation. Because to change something, we need to feel it. It needs to be active. You can speak from the neuroscience perspective that the neural pathways responsible for thinking, activating, feeling something particular need to be activated so they can be changed. And in the same time, when we are activated, and it needs to be in the same time, we need to provide a new experience. New experience that will kind of counterbalance, that would create this mismatch inside. Using my previous example, it can't be both bad to spend money on yourself and okay to spend money on yourself. These two things can't be true for our simple parts. And when there is enough safety, we can override the previous knowing. For example, like when we are in a group setting, like at the women's circles or a group therapy, there is very often this inner knowing, very often shared among many people, that it's not good, okay to show vulnerability among others, that it's generally not safe to be in a group, that it's not safe to be seen in a group. So we need this activation of like, that's stressful to be here, that's activating. And in the same time, we need a new experience of it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be, it's, look, you are met by compassion. You are met by kindness, by acceptance. Even you are not showing your best, your best, but maybe your weakest, maybe your most fragile. But in the same time, it needs to happen in safety. And safety is mainly the inner process. And there is no safety when we have urgency to change, urgency to heal, urgency to like, okay, fix it now. So I'm aware that I may be making it slightly complex, but maybe it's not me who makes it complex. Maybe it is simply complex. So if I could leave you with this complexity, and I would like to also leave you with the sense of safety. that whatever stays with you, it's probably something that your system needs, that your system wants to digest. That maybe there were some elements that like you didn't even remember or like didn't touch you. They probably are not relevant to you at this moment. And I am also aware that it's only like just a piece of the bigger picture. And you have wisdom and you have knowledge and you have intuition to add your pieces, to make it yours. And I would like to kind of bring it back to you, to what's present in your system at this moment, what is activating, what is moving, what is shifting, what is asking questions, and what is giving answers. After this long sharing of mine, I would like to invite you to listen to your inner intuition, your inner wisdom, as all the true answers are there. We are just exchanging these pieces of knowledge, pieces of inspiration, so we can create this collective wisdom and use the container of the collective nervous system to be able to bring more safety. And I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for you giving me this opportunity to share my perspective with you. And I'm curious about yours and how it can be complementary to mine. And I'm sending you a lot of love.